Alone in the Dark Illumination, unlike its survival horror predecessors, is a co-op shooter similar to Left 4 Dead or Lost Planet 2. Developed by Pure FPS, it was originally going to be one of Atari's flagship games that would supposedly help revitalize the company. In this game, you play as one of 4 playable characters, each with their own starter loadouts and abilities, to try and take down the monstrous horde in the town of Norwich. There really isn't much of a story to speak of outside of some text boxes and brief narration. It's all about going through levels to fight enemies and level up. Before I go in any further, I want to make it clear that this won't be a full review on the game, just some quick impressions after 5 hours of play. Gameplay wise, it's a fairly basic third person shooter, but with a unique aspect in that enemies can only get damaged by explosives, or after exposing them to direct light, kind of similar to something like Alan Wake, or even the 2008 Alone in the Dark. It sounds interesting at first, but this is the only way to take down enemies effectively. Enemies are complete bullet sponges otherwise and seem to infinitely spawn everywhere. And with little enemy variety, it makes combat feel samey very quickly, since you're always leading lines of enemies to light sources to finish them off. Another issue is that combat never really feels that demanding. The AI is fairly dumb and tends to get stuck on level geometry or near each other, and they can mostly be taken down with a few shots. Though that's largely due to sinking a fair amount of time in the hunter character due to having the better starter loadout. Certain characters like the witch are flat out useless due to their weak attacks and the long amount of time it takes to recharge. Enemies are only threatening though when they swarm you in packs and end up cornering you, or when your stamina bar quickly runs out and you can't run away from them. As for the levels, there's not much to say. The environments are sometimes interesting looking, but they feel like they were designed with co-op play in mind instead of single player. There's often simple puzzles which require you to bring a few of each item, like batteries to a generator, but since each player can only bring one item at a time, it leads to dull backtracking. Since the game is dead, you're forced to play through it in single player like this, unless of course you can convince someone else to play the game with you. It's a bit sad since there's clearly some amount of effort that went into the game, in terms of unlockable cosmetics and character skill trees, though I can't imagine most people would even unlock most of it, especially since the first 2 levels of the game are genuinely abysmal. The second level in particular is the worst, not only because it's visually the most bland, but also because it's incredibly easy to encounter a game-breaking bug that removes a key item from your inventory, often forcing you to restart the level. Visually, the game doesn't look horrible in terms of environments or character models, but doesn't feel well optimized for something that looks on par with Fear 3. Load times are long, and at times the frame rate tanks to single digits for no reason. The other sore spot are the animations, which look incredibly simple. At times I feel like I'm not playing a $20 game and more like I'm playing a beta or a mod. It just feels unpolished, especially compared to other games from smaller studios. It's especially apparent when you're going through levels and there's very little in the way of background noise. There's little to no voice acting, but the soundtrack gets the job done despite being largely forgettable. Besides that, there's not much to comment on. Even after sinking some time into a patched up version of the game, it's hard to feel motivated to play it. Alone in the Dark Illumination is one of the dullest games you could get on Steam. Even after some patches, it still feels like a free-to-play game in its early alpha stage. It's generally shocking Atari thought that this game would be good for their business, instead of finishing up that remaster of the original Alone in the Dark, or doing a quick remaster of something like Blood. If you're the kind of person into bad games, just play the 2008 Alone in the Dark reboot.
Trapped in the stone, and now it wants it back. What's with this fucking stone?
Otherwise, just stay away from Illumination. If this is the direction Atari thought that the series should go in, it's better off that the franchise just remain dormant.